So, how long does it take to become successful in high ticket sales? Well, it depends who's asking, and it depends what you define as success, because success is different to everybody depending on how they measure it. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Connor. I've been in the high ticket sales industry for the last 6 years of my life. A good amount of that time I spent full-time as a high ticket sales rep. Started as an appointment setter, moved to closer, and then eventually I was running and building and growing my own sales teams for seven-figure and multi-seven-figure companies. And I've worked with hundreds of guys to transition in this space with my own coaching company, as well as got a very long list of case studies publicly on my YouTube that I have posted that shows that I can get people these transformations in the space from, again, 10 to 50K monthly commissions. But enough about that. I just wanted to share that with you just so that I have some credibility and some weight with some of the stuff I'm about to share with you, so you actually believe the words that I'm saying. Let's define success for you. When people ask me this question, it can be split into a myriad of different categories, whether it be landing your first role, right? Doesn't mean it's necessarily a great role, but it could be your first role, right? It's a big thing that people are concerned about. Am I going to get a job? Number two would be, I would say, getting to the point where you're able to replace what you currently do with, your full-time income. Three would be 10K a month, I would say, right? These are like the three different checkpoints or milestones that the guys I work with typically want to achieve and typically want to go through, right? That's what they're looking to achieve and get. Now, when it comes to landing your first role, if you have the right plan, pretty normal to expect on average between 3 to 5 weeks. This is a pretty normal estimate that I go with most of the clients that I work with. Sometimes it can happen longer than that. Sometimes it can be shorter than that. It really depends on a myriad of different factors, whether it be you're doing the right things, you have the right strategy, you're following the roadmaps correctly, like the steps that you need to take in order to get a good role, and that's at a high level of efficacy. And also your standard for roles as well. Typically guys who take longer to get roles, if they have the right strategy in place, it's just because they're holding a higher standard for themselves for the first opportunity they take. Now, the second milestone in that mix is replacing your full-time income. Now, this is going to vary and depend, again, depending on who's asking. Like if you're making 10K a month right now, it's more than likely that you're probably not going to replace that off the bat unless you get really lucky with a really nice role and you've maybe got a little bit of sales experience. If you're making 2, 3, 4, 5K a month full-time right now, it is actually realistic to replace that with your first role. You just have to make the right choice and be in front of the right opportunities. For example, a route that I suggest to most guys that I work with is to start out as an appointment setter. It's not a have to, it's not a must to, but it's just a lot easier because it's path of least resistance, it's low barrier to entry, it's consistent income in the door, you have a base with commissions on top, and it's much easier to replace what you currently do in your current full-time income, again, if you're ranging from 2 to 5K a month or even a little bit above that, when you are an appointment setter, because they usually allow more flexibility in hours, in schedule, all that type of good stuff. Third milestone in this list is 10K a month, right? It's the result we're all marketed to online these days. It's what every beginner wants to achieve. And I get asked this question all the time. So hopefully this gives you the most context possible and you have the most clarity possible in terms of the upfront expectations of what can slow down the progress to this result or speed it up. The first question you need to ask yourself is, do you have sales experience or do you not have sales experience? Now, I'm going to address this crowd over here first because that's about 80% of the clients I work with. Sometimes it's about like 10, 15%, 20% of the clients I work with that actually have sales experience. And I'll talk about that crowd here in a second, but the most of you watching this video are most likely going to be in this bucket here. So I'm going to talk about that first. In that scenario, if you have no sales experience whatsoever, you're a complete beginner, 6 to 12 months is an extremely realistic expectation that you should have to get to 10K a month in this industry. Now, I'm not giving you any income claims, I'm not giving you any guarantees, but this is just statistically what I see for people who are committed, who show up, who take the right steps. This is specifically what I see. Now, I have at this time around like 55 hours or 56 hours of live case studies of people from going from no experience to 10K a month. And literally all the time, it happens right on 6 months or right on 12. And then we have some variance of people who hit it between, that number there. I don't know why, I have no clue, but this is just statistically what I have seen. And you might ask, well, what happens between 6 and 12 months and why does it take people that long or why does it take people longer? Couple things, really. how hard they're trying, commitment, level of focus, hard work, dedication, and if they actually are following a proper strategy, structure, and plan. Most people going at this industry kind of just guessing, but I would say without a doubt, the number one variable that has the most weight in that equation is your ability to not only get good jobs, but able to pick the right jobs. When you first start out in this industry, whether or not you have sales experience, you don't have sales experience, the job that you're going to be qualified for in 2 to 3 months' time once you're on a different offer is not going to be the same as when you started. And so you need to strategically pivot and thread through the right companies and get the right positioning, talk to the right people, build the right relationships, and network and develop the offer acquisition, skills as a whole, which is screening, vetting, networking, and interviewing, to be able to put yourself with the right strategy in place of those right opportunities, which will propel you way faster through this industry rather than just depending on the offer to take you there, right? A lot of people talk about sales skills, offer acquisition, whatever else. They're all important, long story short, but that is the number one thing that I see separates people who go to 10K a month super quickly all the way to guys who've shot up to like 50K a month in commissions. This is AUD, by the way. 50K a month in commissions within the timeline of like a year and a half, for example. Like, why are those guys able to do that? It's solely down to offer acquisition skill sets. It's nothing else. Now, on the other side of things, if you have sales experience, the thing that changes is your speed in which you can achieve those outcomes. Now, 6 to 12 months is still a realistic average, is what I would expect for most people entering this industry, even if you do have sales experience. But typically, I have seen historically from guys who do have that background, that timeline shortens quite a bit. And the reason why is because, not because of the sales process, back to front when it comes to high ticket sales industry. That's one thing to mention. If you have sales experience, it might feel that you do know how to sell in high ticket sales. You have the foundations built, but 9 times out of 10 or 99% of you watching this video will not have the strategy down pat in terms of selling in this industry. It's quite different in the way that you're probably used to selling. Key advantage you bring to the table is not your sales experience per se, because a lot of high ticket sales companies don't even really care about your sales experience. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they just don't care. You need to position yourself in the right way, absolutely, but they don't really care about your previous sales experience. Because the thing is, you gotta understand, selling traditional sales compared to high ticket sales is almost like a totally different story. The thing that you start as your edge or your advantage over people who have no experience is your ability to confidently, I can't even speak myself, right? Confidently and articulate yourself well and communicate clearly. These are the advantages you have, right? It's not your first time speaking to a stranger. You've probably had hundreds or thousands of different interactions, whether or not you did cold calling in traditional sales, you're knocking doors, or you're speaking to high-level execs and executives, selling like high-level enterprise solutions, things like that. That experience does help you and put you up a peg, but it doesn't necessarily save you in a way. It doesn't necessarily just give you a right to be able to make 10K a month, right? It just makes things a lot easier than if you had absolutely zero sales experience. And if you're still here watching this and you have no sales experience whilst we're on that point, and you're concerned thinking about, well, how long does it take me to be able to learn communicate clearly and communicate confidently? Really, 2 to 3 months on a high outbound role where you're doing lots of dials and having lots of sales interactions is really all that you need to kind of get that up, right? It doesn't really take that much and it doesn't take forever. Typically 60 to 90 days on a proper role will allow you to sort yourself out in that regard. There you have it. Hopefully that was useful, insightful, helpful if you're looking to break in the space industry. I don't believe there's many people other than myself that can speak as confidently on this topic as I can, because I just have such a long time in the game. I've got a lot of experience and I've helped a lot of people break into the space. So hopefully this gives you more of a clearer picture on what this could actually look like if you're looking to step into this industry. So I'll see you guys in the next one.